everyone. I'm Tarene. I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Kayla, she, they.
I'm Rohene, she, her.
We
are
Women
Archives.
What makes an archive? Who decides what an archive is? Archives typically live in spaces that aren't always interacted with. We wanted to disrupt and challenge some of these narratives. We were inspired by the artist talk given by Juanita. One of the things that struck me in her talk was this concept of what makes an archive, as well as practices of care in archives. An archive tells a story, and stories make up the entire world. We started to think more about this and came to the realization that we are all archives. We are living archives, and we are in constant flux. So we came up with the title for our podcast, We Are Women Archives. Stories are everything that we are. Stories shape ideology, government, power structures, family structure, and spirit. Stories inform our collective consciousness and in turn history and how we remember history. When we talk about stories, we must ask ourselves these questions. Who's telling the story? Who is included in the story? From whose perspective are we viewing and perceiving and acknowledging the story? And most importantly, who is left out of the stories that we tell? We are living, breathing archives, and we are all powerful women. We have been archiving our time in Bogotá through storywork, friendship, audio, pictures, videos, and of course, archiving our journey, walking with public art. One of the ways we've archived this was writing letters to our future selves. By writing letters to our future selves, we are also dreaming and imagining ourselves into the future, which is a radical act of both self-love and survival. We don't just mean to survive into the future, we dream of thriving into the future. Taking elements of futurism also disrupt the idea of archives telling us only stories of the past. We are living, breathing archives connected to past, present, as well as the future.
So monologues, they are a release of the inner thoughts, bridging narrative to self. We are our stories. We are archives. Monologues often arise from inner conflict, the point of emotional climax. They are the embodiment of the here and now. It's an archive in itself. A stage reading is akin to a workshop. It is a space that breathes and listens to the intricacies of words humming in the space. It's the first look, an offering. Like our own stories, they evolve, taking on new existence in the embrace of these we come across. We are our own phantasmic traces. Stories become characters as they interweave, transcending language, time, and embodiment.
Being in Bogotá informed a lot of my art practice and thinking about my research in terms of this interconnected web of international Indigenous relations. Being Indigenous informs everything that I do, and being able to travel and map out connections and words and trail routes and similarities that we have here in Canada, in Bogotá, Colombia, was instrumental to how I think as a scholar, how I view myself globally, my position globally, what that means to my work, to my community, to my people, and my research. I think that being in Colombia definitely opened up a lot of new thinking patterns for me in terms of where I see my research going. I would love to do more research on the interactions that took place between Latin America and North America predating colonialism, because there are some connections there that are just undeniable. And in my language, we have words for fruits that are only in Latin America, because that's this proof that there was historical trade routes that got washed away from contact. But I think that was probably the biggest thing for me, was identifying those similarities and bringing that into my own thinking as an artist and a researcher.
It depends on location. When we were in the actual galleries, I would probably say very similarly, like my heart and my chest, like it was very weighted there. As we were walking just around town and experiencing the collective and like public art, I felt it mostly in kind of like my hips down. It could have just been because we were walking a lot, but it was something also very, I don't know if it was spiritual or what, but just walking to it and seeing it and experiencing it, because it was most of the time in passing. Like we would walk past and then, you know, maybe turn back and like take a picture and like reflect on it with whomever we were walking with at that time. Um, but yeah, I would say mostly like my legs and feet. Um, it was different than how I usually feel when walking, because like I broke my foot a couple years ago and it never like fully healed. So when I walk on like cobblestone, it can be quite painful, but it almost felt like that pain was worth it, if that makes sense.
So daunting is such a beautiful word. So if you're comfortable, can I pick that up and also kind of um, begin my response from that place? In part because I remember when we first shared our letters with each other at the Cafe 18, which was like 200 meters away from our hotel. Which, huge thank you to them for allowing us to at one point take over their entire cafe. And we were each sharing our first version of the letter, and so the daunting part was sharing the letter with each other only a few days in to being in Bogota, and having very little time to quickly put something together. And then what transformed for me was hearing the words that you and Tarene and you know myself as well started to write. Like you could, like I felt like the words were speaking to the vulnerability of each of us pouring ourselves out into this letter. And then it gave me courage, hearing what you had written, hearing what Tarene had written, and then also seeing the places that I decided to go. And so then when we evolved into the second, version, which we eventually then presented, it was beautiful to see the shifts that we had each made in our letters. And so for me, the process of the writing the letter was powerful, because it felt like an evolution of telling the truth, about what I had been through, giving also voice and naming some of the hopes and the desires that I wanted to achieve, and then feeling the sense that the letter is still incomplete, and it's still going to evolve and change. And so I'm looking forward to continuing to not only return to the letter and add to it, but to also see which parts no longer are parts I want to carry or hold, and which parts do I want to add. So it was a really empowering exercise, and I'm so glad we did it as part of our archive process.
نحن أرشيف النساء. أريتشي تيريرو. To my future self, I hope this letter finds you more stabilized and happy and living that one prayer you've been praying for a long time. I hope also you found your own way and style in art and achieved your goals in your work. I hope you became less afraid of facing your only fear, and I hope that you find peace and be more relaxed and be more in your feminine energy. Keep believing in yourself and be more confident of yourself and what you create. You have great ideas now. I hope you will be achieved it after and see the results of it. Thank you so far for what you've been through and what you faced.
Majinoshi Arkeve. If you were to ask me, who am I? When I was 20, I'd say, I'm quiet. I don't usually speak unless spoken to. And when spoken to, I don't have much to say. Most days, I hate the fact that I'm this way. Other days, I acknowledge that it's an insurance. Something I clench onto, praying I won't buckle. So instead, I walk. I spent many years searching for a way to leave myself behind. But yet, I'm still clenching onto familiar pavement. I'm scared to fall, to let people in. So instead, I push against doors that say pull. Maybe that pause is what lets me breathe for once. I gasp for air, but instead of floundering, I let it lead me. It could cry, stim, or scream on my behalf. Rage, be still, activate. I walk to calm myself. When I think of you, sitting alone at a desk, biting your pencil, plopping ink blots on the page, because no one taught you to write, do math, or exist in harmony with a book. You like to color in the negative space in between letters to seem productive. You want it to look like you served a better purpose than just being a kid who colors the negative space. I want you to know that learning doesn't start in the classroom. It starts by subtracting yourself. Learning starts in the conversations around a bottle of wine. It stirs in the air and the explosions of playing Tejo. It's gazing at the bustling city below. It's singing karaoke in a dive bar. When I look back at the course of my life, I love sitting in drag bars. I love walking on cobblestones. I live for a rundown stage already ripping at the seams. I live for the flutter of music that pulsates within those who have come before me. Today, tomorrow, and hopefully many days after that, I work towards optimism. I walk towards remembering. I walk towards.
This is Pitinoe. You are Atimawinaka Bimatak. This is history. You are a story that is alive. I wonder how the world has moved you. I wonder how the world has changed you. I'm writing you from Bogotá, Colombia to remind you of a few things. You are destined to sing your own creation into being, and I hope you still do this every day. Do you remember feeling creation shake during the orchestra in Bogotá? How the world moved through your body when the voices from the four directions of the room came together in harmony to convey collective memory so deeply that you felt your Itzak Iskoteo climb to higher altitudes, even higher than we were. Do you remember how your body felt the pain of generations of conflict whilst walking on guns melted down by powerful women who are archives to a resistance that goes back to time immemorial? We are archives. We have sung and woven ourselves into history, past, present, and future, just like the ancestors that came before us and the ones who will follow after us. I want to remind you how we felt when you were creating cartographies of generational trail routes of the Mambo. Do you remember seeing the hummingbird, so impossibly green, outside the Colombian bank that never seemed to be open? I find stillness in moments that are fleeting. Much like the hummingbird, I am quick, always, and soft, only when I'm safe. I hope you still remind people. Muya, Atoya, Namasi Kolonak. They haven't killed us off. I have been mapping trail routes that predate colonialism since being here. Elder Jerry talks about us having words in the Heian for pineapple and other fruits that only grow south of the equator. We have these words because we had connections in Latin America that predate colonialism. I have a theory or a dream that we followed migration routes like the monarch butterfly into the deep south. The land and its creatures are always our greatest teachers. How many more connections have we made? How many more times have we felt art move inside of our body while walking down the street, sharing glances with strangers? How has the international web of Indigenous connections informed your practice as a professor? How many res kids do you have in your classroom? Are you the kind of teacher that you needed during undergrad? During microaggressions from peers that followed you well into your PhD? Sometimes we can't blame people for their ignorance, and sometimes we can. I know you have fought to make space for Indigenous students inside of the classroom and outside of the classroom. Remember, it is not our job to educate everyone on all things Indigenous, but you know that. You know to remind people to do their own research when needed, and to offer insights when you have the time, spirit, energy, and strength to do so. I hope you listen when the world sings to you, and I hope you come back to Colombia when the timing is right. I hope you hold on to these moments until you go back into the spirit world.
Isu tiri bakazgi vanatakura nyaya. Let me be the one to tell you, you are my sunshine. Not the fleeting kind that disappears behind uncertainty, but the warmth that radiates from a Bogotá sun so close in elevation. Steady like the hum that vibrates through prayer, passed down by women who knew you would rise. Someone should have told you this sooner. Maybe then your chapters would not have read like a script of survival, where ongoing colonial constructs treat suffering as strength, silence as compliance, and strip racialized bodies of a deeper knowing of how to exist. But no, we don't regret, do we? Like the concept of Gardi and the meshwork of connections shared by Ellie, you remembered that the choice to walk as a Black woman in this world is sacred and flows through sisterhood. With the weaving of warps, wefts, and cross stitches that Samia taught, and the reminder of accessing the intuitive parts through Trisha's Rome technique, you remembered yourself as an unfinished archive tapestry filled with missteps, mystery, and mistakes. As a woman, we are always translating ourselves and our paths in systems engulfed with extraction, exploitation, and exclusion, where broken pieces become blueprints of how far you can be yourself and how far you can reach your potential. This feels like heartbreak, yet I want you to know that the cracks within the crimson red your eyes are drawn to, ignited by Christian, are hinges filled with collective memory, swinging open the door to another version of us. Let me be the one to tell you, you deserve everything you wish for. Not because you negotiated peace for safety or overfunctioned your way into rooms that could barely hold your brilliance, but because wishing is an inner resource no one can take away. Desire, healing, and dream work are the ancestral and untouched data you carry. And you, my future self, are both the cartographer and constellation. Maybe if you had believed that sooner, perfection would not have kept you caged. Control would not have felt like the only way to sleep. But still, we birth a new generation who will see themselves and their future differently. And in doing so, you alchemize the ache. You stitch storytelling into spaces of care. You turn wounds into wisdom. Your scars are now a collection unfolding before our eyes as you braid truth, lineage, and art. Let me be the one to tell you, you are my sunshine and deserve everything you wish for. You are always returning to yourself and becoming, and even now, you still are.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, on the...
So rock, paper, scissors, then shoot.
Okay, rock, paper, K. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Okay.
In three, I'll count us.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
Oh, hi.